Jason Whitlock thought he'd seen it all. After decades in sports media clashing with athletes, calling out controversies, and standing his ground, he never expected this. But the moment he criticized Angel Reese, one of the WNBA's most polarizing stars, his inbox turned into a war zone. The shocking subject lines read like something out of a horror movie. "You deserve to be lit on fire. Your head belongs on a pike. I pray you die of a heart attack." These weren't just trolls dropping comments online. Whitlock says the emails felt orchestrated, dozens pouring in within days, all tied to one common theme: silence him. But why? Why would defending or criticizing Angel Reese spark such a violent reaction? And what does this reveal about the dangerous collision of sports, fandom, and brand protection in today's media world? Was this the work of obsessed fans? A coordinated attempt to protect Angel Reese's reputation at all costs? Or is there something darker happening behind the scenes, where athletes' brands are guarded by people willing to cross the line? Stay tuned, because what Whitlock just revealed could change how you see Angel Reese, sports media, and the power of celebrity forever. Jason Whitlock has always been one of those voices in sports media who doesn't back down. Whether people agree with him or not, he has built a career by saying what many others are too afraid to. From his early days covering the NFL to his fearless commentary on ESPN and Fox Sports, Whitlock has developed a reputation as a blunt, unfiltered truth-teller. But this time, the backlash hit a level even he admits he's never seen before. The controversy began when Whitlock criticized Angel Reese, the rising WNBA star known just as much for her fierce play as for her off-court personality. Reese has become a lightning rod figure in women's basketball. Some fans hail her as a trailblazer who brings swagger and personality to the game. Others accuse her of arrogance, immaturity, and constant drama. Whitlock, never shy about giving his take, leaned toward the latter. But instead of a normal debate or social media blowback, Whitlock claims the response escalated into personal threats delivered straight to his email. These weren't harmless insults. They were detailed, chilling messages suggesting he should be kidnapped, tortured, set on fire, or even killed. Whitlock insists he isn't pointing fingers directly at Angel Reese herself. But he does believe there's a disturbing culture surrounding modern athletes, a world where brand protection matters more than honest conversation. In this culture, extreme fans or even behind-the-scenes figures will do whatever it takes to silence critics. The timing of these threats is what makes this situation even more alarming. Reese has been in the headlines recently for injuries, locker room drama, and her ongoing rivalry with Caitlin Clark. Her name is constantly trending, and any commentary about her instantly goes viral. Whitlock's criticism, therefore, landed directly in the middle of this heated storm, and the consequences were immediate. For Whitlock, this isn't about fear. He says he's been in conflict with athletes and fan bases before. What bothers him most is what this means for the state of sports media. If journalists, podcasters, or broadcasters risk death threats simply for giving a critical opinion, how many will still dare to speak honestly? And if silence becomes the safer option, fans may never hear the truth about their favorite athletes. This is where Whitlock draws the bigger picture. He connects his experience not just to Reese, but to the rise of an unsavory underbelly in sports gambling, money, shady characters, and even violent reputations that have been welcomed into mainstream platforms. In his eyes, this isn't just about Angel Reese or the WNBA. It's about the way sports media is changing, and how dangerous it's becoming for anyone who doesn't play along. And that's where the story takes its first major twist. Because the threats Whitlock received don't just raise questions about Reese's fans, they raise questions about who's really pulling the strings in protecting athletes' images. When Jason Whitlock first opened his inbox and read those chilling words, "You deserve to be lit on fire for slandering Angel Reese," his reaction wasn't fear. It was disbelief. After decades of working in sports media, from locker room confrontations to public feuds with superstar athletes, Whitlock thought he had seen it all. Trash talk, angry fans, even veiled threats were nothing new. But this was different. The volume of emails shocked him. These weren't isolated, random hate messages from one or two trolls. Whitlock claims he's received a wave of messages over the past week, all with a disturbing consistency. Different names, fake Gmail accounts, but the same violent tone. Some told him he should be tortured. Others mocked his weight and wished him a heart attack. At least one suggested his head should be on a pike. To Whitlock, this felt orchestrated, like a coordinated campaign designed not just to insult him, but to shut him up. That's where the conflict deepens. Whitlock isn't suggesting Angel Reese herself is sitting at a laptop firing off these emails, but he believes her brand, her image, and the ecosystem around her might be inspiring this dangerous behavior. Reese is more than a basketball player. She's a cultural figure, a crossover star whose marketability depends as much on her Bayou Barbie persona as on her performance on the court. Whitlock argues that in today's sports world, athletes' brands are protected with the same intensity as Fortune 500 companies. And when those brands are threatened, whether by a losing streak, a viral scandal, or a critical journalist, extreme measures can be taken by people invested in that brand's success. The first twist comes here. The threats aren't just about Angel Reese, they're about silencing critics across the board. Whitlock points out that many journalists avoid criticizing certain athletes for this very reason. Women in sports media, he says, are especially vulnerable. They already face harassment, and when they're critical of popular athletes, the attacks only intensify. That's why so much of today's sports commentary feels sanitized or one-sided, because behind the scenes, critics fear retaliation. The chilling part, Whitlock suggests, this isn't just about crazed fans acting alone. He hints that in some cases, there may be organized efforts to protect athletes, brands, agencies, management groups, and even gambling interests have massive stakes in keeping certain players untouchable. If a journalist's opinion threatens revenue, it's in someone's interest to make that voice disappear. And Whitlock has receipts. He points to examples like Michelle Beadle, who famously claimed LeBron James, and his camp worked behind the scenes to push her out of ESPN. He points to how controversial figures with criminal pasts, Richard Sherman, Matt Barnes, Gilbert Arenas, even Shannon Sharpe, are rewarded with media platforms despite reputations that once would have disqualified them. In his view, the gatekeepers of sports media are no longer concerned with ethics. They're chasing money, clicks, and influence, no matter who they empower. So when the emails landed in his inbox, Whitlock didn't just see angry fans. He saw the shadow of a much larger system where intimidation has become a weapon to protect billion-dollar brands. But here's where it gets even darker. If the threats keep coming, and if other journalists remain silent out of fear, then the people controlling the narrative won't be the media anymore. It will be the athletes, their handlers, and whoever is willing to go furthest to silence dissent. And Whitlock, he says he refuses to play along. He's been through fire before, literally and figuratively, and he's not backing down now. The inbox messages alone were terrifying, but what happened next turned this story from alarming to downright chilling. Jason Whitlock claims that after his initial revelation about the burn him alive emails, the attacks didn't slow down, they intensified. Suddenly, his social media mentions were flooded. Thousands of accounts, many of them clearly bots or burners, started mass-tagging him with the same phrases: "Leave Angel alone. Your career is finished, and you'll pay for what you said." That's when Whitlock realized this wasn't just casual fan outrage. It was an organized smear campaign. According to him, several of the accounts spamming him were created within the same 48-hour window. Their profile pictures were stock images, their bios almost identical, and their tweets exclusively focused on defending Angel Reese while targeting anyone who criticized her. This isn't natural, Whitlock said on his show. Somebody or some group is pulling strings. Here's the shocking reveal. Whitlock believes sports, marketing agencies, and athlete management firms might be behind the rise of these coordinated digital attacks. Angel Reese isn't just a star on the court. She's a multi-million-dollar brand with sponsorship deals from Reebok, Amazon, and beauty companies that view her as the face of a new era. If a powerful voice like Whitlock starts poking holes in that image, it risks millions in revenue. And that's where the story explodes beyond Angel herself. Whitlock points to a broader trend in sports, athletes being shielded like celebrities, with PR firms, brand managers, and sometimes even political players ensuring their images stay untouchable. In this system, journalists who question or criticize become the enemy not because they're wrong, but because they threaten the money pipeline. But here's the part that really shakes the industry. Whitlock revealed on air that he's not the only journalist getting these emails. According to him, at least 2 other media figures privately admitted they've received threatening messages after questioning Angel Reese, but unlike Whitlock, they chose not to go public. Why? Fear. Fear of being attacked further. Fear of losing jobs. Fear of being branded as anti-woman or anti-black athlete in today's hypercharged sports discourse. This raises an explosive question. How many more voices are being silenced behind the scenes? And then Whitlock dropped the bombshell. One of the emails he received didn't just threaten him, it mentioned his home address. That detail shifted the entire narrative. What began as digital harassment now edged dangerously close to real-world intimidation. For Whitlock, it proved his larger point. This isn't about sports anymore. It's about control. Control over who gets to speak, who gets to criticize, and who gets erased when they step out of line. As the emails pile up and the harassment escalates, Whitlock insists he won't fold. But he also warns that if this continues unchecked, the future of sports journalism could collapse under the weight of fear campaigns leaving only sanitized, controlled narratives approved by athletes' camps. And that's the part nobody wants to admit. Once journalists stop asking tough questions, the truth disappears with them. When Jason Whitlock went public with the threatening emails, the reactions split the sports world in two. On one side were fans of Angel Reese, who doubled down in defense of their star. Social media hashtags, like #ProtectAngelReese and #StopWhitlock began trending, fueled by passionate WNBA supporters who claimed Whitlock had a history of targeting female athletes unfairly. To them, the backlash wasn't harassment, it was accountability. If you come for Angel, expect to get burned, one fan posted on X, echoing the very email Whitlock had shared. But on the other side, journalists, free speech advocates, and even rival commentators expressed outrage, not at Whitlock's criticism of Angel Reese, but at the dangerous precedent of silencing dissent with threats. Veteran broadcaster Stephen A. Smith, without naming Angel, tweeted, "Disagree with takes all you want, but threats? That's crossing the line." Within the industry, the divide was clear. Some younger sports media personalities avoided the topic altogether, fearing blowback. Others, like Clay Travis, rushed to Whitlock's defense, calling the attacks a coordinated mob effort to scare critics into silence. Even former athletes weighed in. Hall of Famer Charles Barkley blasted the harassment, saying, "If Whitlock's wrong, prove him wrong with facts. Don't send death threats, that's coward stuff." Meanwhile, the WNBA found itself uncomfortably in the spotlight. The league had been celebrating record-breaking viewership thanks to Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark's rising rivalry. But this controversy cast a darker shadow. Some insiders whispered that the league's silence looked like tacit approval of the mob culture surrounding its stars. Others argued the WNBA shouldn't be held responsible for what anonymous fans do online. The corporate world also watched closely. Reese's sponsorship deals make her one of the most valuable young stars in women's sports. Brands like Reebok and Amazon have invested heavily in her image as a fearless, outspoken competitor. The question now, would corporate sponsors step in if the attacks escalated further, or would they quietly distance themselves from the storm? Public opinion polls on X and Instagram showed a surprising split. Roughly 55% of respondents sided with Reese's defenders, saying Whitlock should leave her alone, but a strong 40% believed the threats had crossed into dangerous territory, warning that today, it's Whitlock, tomorrow it could be any journalist or fan who dares to speak critically. Perhaps the most shocking reaction came from fellow journalists. Several admitted anonymously to sports blogs that they've avoided covering Angel Reese in-depth, not because she isn't newsworthy, but because the backlash isn't worth it. One reporter wrote, "You can write 1,000 positive things, but if you say one critical word, the mob comes for you. It's not journalism anymore. It's survival." That statement exposed the uncomfortable truth. The ripple effect of emails isn't just about one commentator versus one athlete. It's about an entire industry rethinking how much freedom still exists to report honestly. As the debate rages, one thing is certain. The Jason Whitlock-Angel Reese controversy has become bigger than basketball. It's a case study in how sports, celebrity, money, and digital mobs collide. It's forcing everyone, from fans to sponsors to journalists, to choose a side. Just when it seemed the story couldn't get any darker, a shocking twist emerged. Sources close to Jason Whitlock revealed that the threats weren't just random fan emails. According to leaked documents shared with independent outlets, at least 2 of the messages were traced back to accounts connected with organized bot farms overseas, raising questions about whether Whitlock's harassment campaign was being amplified artificially. This revelation set off alarm bells. Was Whitlock simply the target of angry sports fans, or was there a bigger machine at work, weaponizing Angel Reese's name for clicks, outrage, and chaos? Cybersecurity analysts warned that digital mobs are often fueled by fake accounts designed to escalate conflicts beyond control. If true, that meant Whitlock's frightening inbox might not only represent genuine anger from Reese's supporters, but also a coordinated effort to push the narrative to its breaking point. But here's where it gets even more unsettling. Whitlock hinted in a podcast episode that he had received one email with specific details about his home address information that couldn't have been pulled from a public profile. He described the chilling moment. "When I read that line, I knew this wasn't just about sports talk anymore. This was about intimidation at the highest level." Meanwhile, Angel Reese has remained silent. Neither she nor her representatives have commented on the threats, leaving the public to speculate. Some believe Reese's silence is a smart PR move. Why fuel a fire you didn't start? Others, however, argue that her refusal to condemn the threats sends the wrong message, unintentionally emboldening the mob that claims to defend her. Behind the scenes, ESPN executives and WNBA officials are reportedly holding quiet meetings, trying to figure out how to address the firestorm without alienating Reese or appearing to condone threats against journalists. It's a high-stakes balancing act. Protect the league's biggest star, or protect the principle of free commentary. And here's the cliffhanger: rumors are now swirling that Whitlock is preparing to release the full set of threatening emails publicly, unredacted. If he follows through, that could expose not only the fan culture around Reese, but possibly even reveal connections to major online networks or individuals that no one saw coming. So the question is no longer just about Angel Reese. It's about the future of sports media itself. If a journalist can be told to burn alive for a take, and if stars can remain untouchable from criticism, where does the line get drawn? The storm isn't over. In fact, it may only just be starting. The Whitlock-Angel Reese saga has become more than just a sports debate. It's now a full-blown battle over free speech, fandom, and the future of sports media. Think about it: if a journalist can receive death threats just for critiquing a player, what happens to the freedom of honest conversation in sports? What happens when fans, players, and even entire organizations treat criticism like a crime punishable by intimidation? The stakes have never been higher. Jason Whitlock is standing firm, refusing to be silenced, but his story is also a warning. The threats in his inbox could happen to anyone who dares to speak their mind in this hypercharged digital era. And whether you agree with Whitlock or not, the principle is bigger than one man. It's about whether or not we as fans are allowed to hear unfiltered truth. Angel Reese, for her part, now faces a defining moment in her career. Will she step forward to condemn the threats made in her name? Or will silence allow the mob to keep growing louder, pushing sports media further into fear and censorship? That decision could shape not just her image, but the way athletes and critics interact for years to come. And that's where you come in. This story isn't just unfolding in press rooms or boardrooms, it's playing out in real time across social media, comment sections, and YouTube feeds like this one. Your voice, your opinion. Your willingness to engage with this debate keeps the conversation alive. So don't just watch, be part of the movement. Drop your thoughts below, hit that subscribe button, and share this video so the truth can't be buried under threats and silence. Because if we back down now, what's next? This isn't just a story. It's a fight for the soul of sports media.